Okay. Oh, thanks for tuning in. It's another day, another dollar here at the Lead with Love show. Thank you so much, Eva, for joining us. I have with us today a very special guest. It's Eva Medilek. She's an amazing woman, and I could talk about that for hours. But in the relationship corner, I'm just so excited to have you with us to talk about this topic. Thank you so much for joining and helping. And please give the audience a proper introduction to yourself, because you've done so much, but I want to hear about your work in relations to the topic of leading with love.
Well, I am a certified high performance coach. And what I basically do is I help busy professionals get clear on where to focus their time, their energy, and their efforts so that they can advance their career without sacrificing their personal life in the process. And so when you talk about relationships and you talk about advancing your career, a lot of times we're putting so much time, energy, and effort into the doing that we lose sight of who we are being when we are building. And this subject is so near and dear to my heart, because when I was building one of my entrepreneurial businesses, I thought I had it all going on and I was superwoman. I was working a full-time job and building my entrepreneurial business like a lot of us do, right? But I also was doing all the cooking, all the shopping, all the laundry, and I thought I could do it all to have it all. And what happened was I got so burnt out, overwhelmed, and exhausted that it affected my health, my mood, and ultimately my relationships. And so, there was a point when I discovered my husband's infidelity when I was building a business that we were building together, but I was mostly driving it. And so that's why I love, love, love talking about relationships, because the energy that we bring into our relationships matters more than anything else.
Okay, so that's interesting. So yeah, the relationship was on the back burner, and shit happens when that's when that's going on.
Yeah, and I thought that, we always have this, well, as soon as I build this business, as soon as I make X amount of dollars, as soon as I do this, then we can focus on us more. And I was in that space, really just, it never dawned on me that, infidelity was possible, because my husband, is a wonderful person, very high integrity. And when I discovered his infidelity, I have to tell you, my first thought was, holy crap, where's my responsibility in this?
Yeah.
What did I do? How did I contribute to this breakdown in our marriage? I did not go into victim. Yes, I was hurt. I was blindsided. It was a punch in the gut. But I also knew that a good man had done something that I'm sure he's not proud of either. And how was I a part of that decision for his self-sabotage?
There's our leadership training coming in. How did I say? So were you able to figure it out and get through it, or what happened?
Well, here's what we did. I found out quite by accident. We were building a real estate investment business at the time, and I had been asking for some photos of a project. And so he went to walk the dog, and I picked up the phone that he left behind to look for the photos. And that's how I discovered it. It wasn't any big confession or anything. And when we talked about it openly and honestly. And we had a decision to turn that breakdown into a breakup or to a breakthrough. And we wanted to give it our best effort to break through and build something better for ourselves. And, here's something that I want to share that I felt was really important to share with your viewers and your listeners. We actually committed to a relationship that we wanted. Not so much committing to each other.
Okay.
So there was always that fear and the possibility that maybe we weren't meant to continue this journey together. And we had to come to grips with that, but we had to do everything we could, because we love each other, to see how can we have the relationship we desire and deserve with each other. So our focus became on the relationship, which was really, really powerful. Because here's the thing, if you focus on the relationship, you do everything that you can to build the relationship that you want. But if you focus on the person per se, you know, people make mistakes. People are going to F up. People are going to disappoint you constantly. And so how do we rise above the F ups, mistakes, and disappointments to really pull our focus back together? Like, this is what I need in the relationship. This is what you need. This is how I want to feel in the relationship. And so constantly supporting each other to grow and transform, to be the best person we can be for ourselves and therefore for each other.
I love the focus on the relationship versus the person. So as you know, I love my husband very, very much, but we're now separate because it wasn't the relationship I wanted. And it doesn't mean I love him any less, and it's nobody's fault. It's just when you look at what kind of life and relationship do you want? Like, love is not always enough. So it doesn't even have to be that they're effing up. It's just what life and relationship do you want? And are you able to build that? And it's nobody's fault if you can't build the relationship together that you want. So it's not about the person, but the relationship you want.
Yeah. And so, you know, for me personally, that was scary.
Yeah.
Because there was that possibility that he could decide he didn't want to be with me. I couldn't be a part of the relationship that he wanted. I wasn't part of that relationship. And then I could decide that I didn't want to be with him because I wasn't getting the relationship I want. And so it was really important for us to stay focused on the present, because if we looked at the past, you know, all of that fear would come up. What if it happens again? What if he cheats again? What if this happens? What if this happens? And focusing on the future creates a lot of anxiety and what ifs as well. And so it was really an exercise into staying focused on the present creation for both of us, what we created for ourselves, what we created for each other in our relationship, and to support each other in that creation. And I feel that it's my experience that focusing on the present moment without bringing up the past or worrying about the future is what helped us get through those rocky spots, because as you know, it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to, you know, in order to break through, you've got to go through. You got to go through a lot of muckety muck to come out on the other side. And it's work we're constantly in, honestly. And a lot of it has to do with the energy that we bring into the relationships, the creating safe space for generous communication in relationships, but also honoring each other's individuality and not shooting on each other and expecting, you know, I have this quiz that a lot of my clients take before I start high performance coaching with them. And it's the relationship style assessment quiz. So there are 5 distinct relationship styles that were formed from our early life experiences, and it patterns our behaviors, our beliefs, and our patterns in a way that shows up to damage our relationships today. And so I have them all take the quiz. There's 5 distinct styles that could be, and I've made an acronym out of the letters in the word style. And so there's 5 distinct ones that could be you, and it shows you where those patterns came from and how it damages your present relationship today, so that you can then in high performance coaching develop the habits, practices, and principles to transform from what was ingrained deep in us from our childhood and our early life experiences, so that we can be the best us we can be. We can bring in all of the energy and courage and influence that we need in our relationships.
Wow, that's interesting. So from childhood, we have a prefixed way of being intimate in an intimate relationship with our loving partner.
Well, any relationships, it's how we relate. Yeah, it's how we relate. Because here's the thing, you know, as children, some behaviors were patterned for us depending upon the household we grew up in, the environment we grew up in, I should say. And a lot of times we developed protection mechanisms in our childhood, whether it was to feel safe, to deal with an anxiety or fear, to please our parents, to get their attention, to deal with certain things in our lives. So, for example, if you had an overprotective or critical parent, chances are you have more of a pleaser type relationship style, where you're always morphing, so to speak, to please other people, and you get lost in the relationships. And that could affect your home life. It can affect your friendships. It can affect how you show up as a business leader, how you show up as a leader in your community. There's also what I call the yo-yo effect, which is the YN style, where you are longing to be connected to your parents, one or more of your parents, and they were always too busy or working all the time, and you always desired that connection. And your whole life is built around trying to get the attention and connection that you want, because when you get it, it feels so good, but then it's short-lived. So you spend the rest of your time trying to get it. So it's that back and forth. And then when you don't get it, you're really disappointed. And that disappointment manifests as anger. But the real feeling, if you were to peel back all the layers, is sadness.
Yeah, longing and sadness. Yeah, feeling
Mhm.
not loved. So there are many different ways to feel not loved and unwanted. And the yo-yo way, that really makes sense. Like being in that limbo.
Yeah, it's kind of a back and forth, a push-pull.
Yeah.
I want you, but you're disappointing me, go away. And there's a lot deeper layers to this, but it really gives you an insight and awareness as to why these feelings show up in you.
Yeah.
How they can damage relationships, how they can sabotage, I would say, what you're trying to build. And once you connect that through line
Mhm.
and are made aware, like, oh, here's where I'm angry, but I'm really sad. And if I can just express my disappointment in a way that is open and honest and vulnerable, it really dissipates the anger, and you can ask for what you want and need.
Yeah, I found when my husband opened up, it wasn't that often, but when he was just honest, and like when a man talks about emotions, if he doesn't do it all the time like we do, it's like, wow, it's the sexiest, wildest thing ever. It's like, wow, say more. But again, if you do it all the time, he was like, stop whining on me, like stop. You get that, right? One big pity party. So that
Yeah.
is very, if you're able to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. And men tend to be more what I call the E in style, is evaders. If they grew up in homes that, big boys don't cry, be a man, tough it out. They've learned to suppress their emotions from, how their parents taught them. We as parents, we are uncomfortable when our kids are uncomfortable. So the natural tendency is to want to make them feel better quickly and not stay in that emotion.
Exactly.
So make them feel better, don't cry, you're a big girl, all of that stuff. And men get it a lot worse, like, don't be a P, don't do this, come on, man up, suck it up, you're a man, you can take it. So they've learned to suppress it, and very few of them had role models in the men in their lives that expressed vulnerability and their feelings and emotions in a way that were vulnerable and not just outbursts of anger. And so they bring that patterning and that role modeling into their current relationships. And they don't know, they never developed the skill on how to open up. They never developed it.
It's so interesting. It's what an important point, that as parents, we want them to feel better quickly. And that's the whole root cause of everything.
Mm.
I was thinking about in your work with the professionals in performance. Can you think of any examples where you see, oh, that's why you're being that kind of boss at work, or that kind of leader, and that's how you're building a relationship?
All the time. And, I see it very clearly. It's really getting the client to see it and notice it. It's like, I have a client now in Canada whose dad was a workaholic and admired in the community and had all of these accolades in the community, but was never there for his family. And, and so his mother had her coping mechanisms. He was always seeking attention from the dad, and it had to do with accomplishments. That's how you got attention. You got awards, you did well in school. But his dad worked so hard to the point where he didn't take care of himself physically, where he died of a heart attack at a very young age. I think he was around 50. And my client now, who is married and just had a child, is struggling in his relationship because he's working hard trying to bring all the money into the family so they can live a lifestyle, but his wife and his new baby are not getting the time, energy, and attention from him for the relationship. And so that's causing relationships problems. And although he sees that what his father did, and he has his father on this pedestal, is not something he wants to have in his marriage, to where they end up breaking up, it's hard for him to break that pattern. And so that's what we're working through right now, is how he can show up and not repeat the mistakes of the dad in the relationship. But we support what we create. This has got to be, our clients creating these transformations for themselves, and we're just showing them, how it's affecting. But he had no idea that's where it came from, why he feels everything needs to be hard and working hard all the time. And he makes a good living. He's very, very successful, but he also has that money fear attached to the money fear that his dad brought into the family. And so it's really interesting to watch him become more and more aware of where he's repeating his dad's mistakes and how he can transform out of that.
Good job, Eva. I'm so happy. I found it was way easier to write a second thesis in law or make a business than it was my own family. So I think I needed success. And that's why I did the business thing, because it was so much easier. Like for me, 10,000 times more easier to write a thesis, another one in law, than to be like happy at home. Not just, all this stuff from childhood just comes up, and it's so much harder to be with your family. That's where the hard part really is. Working is easy.
Yes, especially if you've had that modeled. Yeah, but being those vulnerable feelings and being fully present without needing the distractions to pull you away from your emotions, it's powerful to get to that point.
Neither of my parents had any careers or any, I think I needed the success to feel not like a failure. And then you come home with the family, and I kept feeling like a failure because it would always end up in fighting and like not the way I wanted it. So for business, it could be a little bit of a success, but marriage is the most important. So that's where my focus is now. That's the real success. Everybody can have success. Business doesn't change anything. It's
Right. There was another client I was talking with who is married, and they adopted twin special needs boys that were a different race from them as well when they were 2 years old. And recently her mother-in-law passed, and she was about to send her husband to the memorial service alone because of all of the needs the children have. And we had a really, really powerful session about putting her focus on what matters most. And when, I see this happen with so many couples, as soon as children enter the picture, your focus is so much on the children that you lose sight of your relationship with your spouse, making that time to be alone with your spouse. And all the conversations are around the children. Everything is around managing the children, and they've got double trouble, 3 or 4 year olds who are special needs. And so there was that fear there. And we had a really deep opening conversation about, not only is she a mom, but she was a wife first. And so how can she show up in a way that truly supports her husband in the loss of his mom, who was a very vital part of their lives and their families, and make sure the children are taken care of and know that they won't die if somebody else watches them for a couple of days or whatever.
Yeah, well,
and they, and it's funny because my clients do record all of our sessions, and she actually played that session and watched it together with her husband. And it was just such a beautiful moment in their relationship where they reevaluated their priorities and are really focusing on not making their relationship less of a priority because they have these children now.
Amazing. It's so amazing just to hear that you do that work. This is just the most important thing we could ever do. Like, I don't know why anybody would work in IT and finance and all. It doesn't make any sense. This is so important, even. It's amazing that you're part of that. Just listening to it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but it's so important. Like, can you think of anything more valuable? Like, why are we chasing all these exterior weird results outside? Doesn't make any sense. I mean,
Yeah. Well, let's be real. Money makes your life easier. There's less worries. You can have better food and all that, but we really have to focus on what matters most and really create, I call it my CPR, be clear on what matters to you, be clear on what makes you happy, be clear on having a vision for your life, be in alignment with your reality. And then set your priorities, be clear on what your priorities are, because when you don't have clear priorities, studies show that you're up to 30 times less likely to achieve success if you aren't clear on what your priorities are. And then the R in the CPR is the responsibility of creating and setting boundaries to protect your values and priorities. So you've got to not only set it, but communicate it to those around you, because a lot of, conflict happens in miscommunication because we're not clear in what we need and the boundaries we set, and we don't check in to make sure people are clear. We're not setting those boundaries in a way that we are also supporting them and asking for support. I found that even with my husband, everybody's working from home and, we're here. And just because we're home doesn't mean he can come into my office. It doesn't mean this. And so what I had to do was really be clear on, honey, when the doors close, it usually means I'm with a client and can't be disturbed. So, that's what that means. And I could really use your support and not knocking, or when I have an hour to put together a presentation. And I find that the more I communicate those boundaries, the more he supports them. And it's like, okay, do you want me to take care of dinner tonight? And how can I support you because you're working on this project? And it feels less that I'm not spending time with him, but more that he's helping me, be successful. And I was like, okay, and then tomorrow it won't be like that. And so I'll take over and I'll do dinner and blah, blah, blah. So it really is, balance in your life and business is not equal, because an equal scale is zero, right? And so you don't want zero results in your life. But balance is like this. It's a moving, sometimes it's the business, sometimes it's the family, and you've just got to be clear on moving through it.
I never ever thought about it like that. Oh, I get so many. I always thought like you balance it out so that like you're extreme this, extreme that, and then you're equal. But it's up and down. That's why it's balanced.
Yeah, balance is not equal. And it's different and personal for everyone. So you have to create your own unique balance. And so we have to get this idea that, the scales are balanced. I'm spending just as much time with my family as I am at work. Like, nah, bruh, sometimes you got stuff going on at work that needs more attention than your family does, and you ask for support. Can you take care of the kids? Can you walk the dog? Can you take care of dinner? Blah, 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 whatever has to be done. And then at other times, what, my family needs me now. So I need to reschedule a client or reschedule a meeting because there's something going on in my family right now that needs my attention, and it's my priority. And that's why it looks like this.
So clarity, priority, and
responsibility for creating and setting boundaries. Yep.
Yeah, because you might think you prioritize something, you have this idea, but then when you look at what you actually do, it's not quite congruent, right, with your values.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why you need boundaries that support your priorities. Now, for example, if you're looking at your calendar and you have something important you need to do and you put it in the calendar, you owe it to yourself to be in integrity and be in charge of your calendar so that the calendar doesn't run you. Like I have this thing where I teach my clients this too with emails. You've got to create your emails first before responding to anybody else's, because that puts your priorities first. What do you need to create? Who do you need to reach out to for what you've got going on in the day, instead of being in response to, Samantha needs me, or Johnny needs me, and oh, Johnny has this request, and this was like, that's putting other people's priorities first. No, you've got a certain amount of time to get your creation of your emails out, and then you book another time to be in response mode to other people's priorities. You get to control that scale so it doesn't control you.
Outsource, that would be. So how can we apply that in marriage, that way of prioritizing and leading our emails? Is there an analogy to marriage?
Well, I would say for marriage, you've got to prioritize your relationship and the energy you bring to the relationship. So it starts with, here's what I say. First of all, you've got to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically to have the energy to be in relationship. And so what I recommend and what I do is, especially when you work from home, I don't leave there and go immediately to be a wife. I have a transition. I have a little ritual. I have a little energy clearing. I'm going to clear the energy from work and go into the energy of being, with my family and playing with the dog. So I take 2 or 3 minutes to do kind of what I call a release meditation technique. And then when I have on my calendar to stop work at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is, I've got to be in integrity to that. If it goes beyond that, then I ask for support from my husband. I need to work later today. I'm going till 6 or whatever, and he's like, okay, I've got dinner. So it's that support mechanism. But here's the kicker. Protect your energy so that your family doesn't get what's left over of you. The burnt out, stressed out, overwhelmed you from running your life, your business, your corporation, whatever that is. And then you're going down like, oh, I had a rough day. No, leave that shit in the office. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Go be the best you. And when you learn the habits that bring you energy, the hydration, the movement, the just stopping your mind, stop looking at the screen for 5 minutes, so that you are as energized throughout the day. And by the end of the day that you were when you started, then your family gets your energy. Yeah,
good point. So important, so important. I'm so happy to get to reconnect with you, Eva. And I love the way you talk, and it's really, really valuable for the listeners. I know, like asking for support, so important, right? Like, take responsibility without asking for support. And if it doesn't land, ask in another way.
Yes. Don't be afraid to ask. Men love directions. They don't really want to be left to figure out your clues. Don't leave them clues. Be direct. The more direct you are, and I mean lovingly direct, like, I need your support. Can I ask for your support for this? Like, of course, what is it you want me to do? And be specific about what you need. Most of us want our spouses to be mind readers. And they're not.
No, then it's okay. You got to respect that too. If he says no, maybe he doesn't say it directly, but he says no.
Yeah, but it may not be a good time. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, who else? Do you have any other suggestions of who else I could ask? Be in collaboration.
Yeah.
This
is so much words in this way of thinking. Thank you so much for spilling all your wisdom onto us. And I love that you have the book behind you, High Performance Habits. And I really see the link now. So thank you so much. Do you have a free gift for the audience before we close?
You know what? I think your audience would really benefit from taking my relationship styles assessment quiz.
Yeah, I think so.
And so all they have to do is evamedilek.com, my name, /quiz.
Yeah, I'll link it to them.
On that. Yeah.
Under your bio in the interview. So they'll have it, right? So take that quiz. I'm taking it too. I can't wait to share with us in the Facebook group what your takeaways are and how it has affected your marriage. Because if you do apply this work, you'll see results immediately. So there is no excuse, ladies. Take responsibility. So thank you so much, Eva. I'm sorry I have to run now. It's been awesome to reconnect with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Mwah.
Love from them. Bye. Bye.